Welcome, families, to Nature Storytime at the Harvard Museums of Science and Culture. If you've attended our program before, welcome back. If this is your first time, we're glad you're here. We hope this program engages everyone in your family, from the little kids to the grown-ups. We read picture books that you might find at your local library or at school that connect to something in the museum. First, we'll read the story, then look closely at some science specimens from the teaching collection of the museum. We hope you enjoyed today's story. Hello, everyone. Welcome to Nature Storytime. My name is Carol. Today we're going to be reading a story and thinking about animals that hatch out of eggs, like chickens. Have you ever seen a chicken egg? I found these in my refrigerator. A chicken egg. Perhaps you had one for breakfast. Although the eggs that we eat for breakfast are never going to hatch into chickens because they're not fertilized. But if they were fertilized, out would hatch a little chick. So our story today is An Extraordinary Egg, written and illustrated by Leo Lionni and published by Alfred Knopf. I know what an egg is, but what does extraordinary mean? It's made up of two parts, extra and ordinary. Extraordinary. So I consulted my Roget's Thesaurus to see other words that mean the same thing as extraordinary. Synonyms. Extraordinary, another word similar to that meaning is wonderful, unexpected, remarkable, particular, exceptional, and notable. So an extraordinary egg is going to be something very special. An Extraordinary Egg by Leo Lionni. On Pebble Island, there lived 3 frogs: Marilyn, August, and one who was always somewhere else. That one's name was Jessica. Jessica was full of wonder. She would go on long walks way to the other side of Pebble Island and return at the end of the day shouting, "Look what I found!" And even if it was nothing but an ordinary little pebble, she would say, "Isn't it extraordinary?" But Marilyn and August were never impressed. One day, in a mound of stones, she found one that stood out from all the others. It was perfect, white like the snow and round like the full moon on a midsummer night. Even though it was almost as big as she was, Jessica decided to bring it home. Can you see which one of these pebbles is different from the others? It looks round like the moon. I wonder what Marilyn and August will say when they see this, she thought, as she rolled the beautiful stone to the small inlet where the 3 of the frogs lived. "Look what I found!" she shouted triumphantly. "A huge pebble!" This time, Marilyn and August were truly astonished. "That's not a pebble," said Marilyn, who knew everything about everything. "It's an egg, a chicken egg." "A chicken egg? How do you know it's a chicken egg?" asked Jessica, who had never even heard of a chicken. Marilyn smiled. "There are some things you just know." A few days later, the frogs heard a strange noise coming from the egg. They watched in amazement as the egg cracked, and out crawled a long, scaly creature that walked on 4 legs. Like this. "See," said Marilyn, "I was right. It is a chicken." "A chicken!" they all shouted. The chicken took a deep breath, grunted, gave each of the astonished frogs a look, and said in a small, raspy voice, "Where's the water?" Straight ahead, the frogs cried out excitedly. The chicken threw herself into the water, and the frogs dove in after her. To their surprise, the chicken was a good swimmer, and fast too, and she showed them new ways to float and paddle. We all know that chicken are good swimmers, right? No? They had a wonderful time together, and they played from sunup to sundown, and so it went for many days. Then, one day, when Jessica was somewhere else, August and Marilyn saw a commotion in the water below them. Someone was in trouble. Quickly, the chicken dove into the dark pool. August and Marilyn were frightened. What do you think is going to happen? After a few long moments, the chicken reappeared, carrying Jessica. "I'm all right," she called. "I got tangled in the weeds, but the chicken saved me." From that day on, Jessica and her rescuer were inseparable friends. Wherever Jessica went, the chicken went too. They traveled all over the island. They went to Jessica's secret thinking place. Do you have a secret thinking place? A place you like to go to think? And to the Great Pebble Monument. One day, they went to a place where Jessica had never been before. A red and blue bird flew down from a tree. "Oh, there you are," it exclaimed when it saw the chicken. "Your mother has been looking all over for you. Come, I'll take you to her." They followed the bird for a very long time. They walked and they walked, and they walked under the warm sun and the cool moon, and then they came upon the most extraordinary creature they had ever seen. Who do you think it's going to be? What do you think the little chicken's mother looks like? It was asleep, but when it heard the little chicken shout, "Mother!" it slowly opened one eye, smiled an enormous smile, and said in a voice as gentle as the whispering grass, "Come here, my sweet little alligator." And the little chicken climbed happily onto her mother's nose, because that's what chickens do. "Now it's time for me to go," said Jessica. "I'll miss you very much, little chicken. Come visit us soon, and bring your mother too." Jessica couldn't wait to tell Marilyn and August what had happened. As she neared the inlet, she shouted, "Guess what I found?" And she told them all about it. "And do you know what that mother chicken said to her baby?" Jessica asked. "She called her my sweet little alligator." "Alligator," said Marilyn. "What a silly thing to say." And the three frogs couldn't stop laughing. That's the end of our story. So I hope you enjoyed that story. It was kind of silly, wasn't it? We know that chickens really don't swim, and that it really was an alligator in the story. But it's kind of fun to just be imaginative, just like the author was. But because we're in a museum, it's also really interesting to look at what is true in nature. And so we saw a chicken egg, but it would be interesting to look at the difference between an alligator egg and a frog egg, and maybe think about why the frogs were confused, because they look really different. So here we have a real science specimen that is from our research collections, our teaching collections. It is an alligator egg. It's not going to hatch. It's preserved in ethanol, but we're able to look at it and see how it is shaped and how it's colored. And it definitely looks different from frog eggs. So This little egg right here is laid by the mom with a bunch of others, but when the alligator hatches and grows, it may be as big as long as 10 feet long when it grows up. It's really amazing. And when the little alligator hatches, it's quite small, and it actually can climb on its mother's nose. And in fact, they often do climb on their mother's nose or back, or even inside her mouth, to travel out to the water safely, where the little alligators learn how to eat fish and to hunt for other things. So it's going to take them a long time before they grow to full-grown length. They start out very small. Now the frog eggs, there's usually a lot of them laid together. And right now we're in spring, so it's the time for frogs to be laying their eggs. And in fact, my family and I went out to a vernal pond here in New England at night, and we could see that there were frogs, wood frogs, that had been buried in the mud in the pond, and they were thawing and warming up, and they were actually swimming around in the pond. Soon they would be mating and laying eggs of their own. And the eggs are laid in clumps. So here we've got a specimen of some frog eggs. You can see that the little black spot in each one is a separate egg, but they're laid together in this kind of gelatinous goo that will keep them together. And they're laid in water. When the frog eggs hatch, then there'll be little tadpoles. So we know that it takes a while for them to become fully frogs. You can take a look at this picture and see if you can find some of the tadpoles. So that's our story about frog eggs and alligator eggs and chicken eggs. And since we're in the season of spring, lots of animals are having babies, and eggs will be laid and hatched. And so we might have another story soon to look at other animals that hatch out of eggs. Thanks for joining me today, and have fun. Bye.